The small town of Ravenswood was known for its picturesque landscapes and tight-knit community. However, an eerie presence loomed over its inhabitants. It began innocently enough, with people noticing strange reflections in their mirrors. At first, it was dismissed as mere trickery of the mind, but soon, the reflections took on a life of their own. Emma Thompson, a young woman with a penchant for curiosity, found herself at the center of the unfolding horror. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror seemed to smirk at her, its eyes filled with a sinister gleam. Night after night she woke to the sound of whispered voices, echoing through the empty corridors of her house. Fear gnawed at her sanity, as she witnessed her reflection gesturing for her to come closer. Unable to resist the pull any longer, Emma reached out to touch the mirror's cool surface. To her shock, her fingers passed through the glass, as if entering a parallel dimension. Trembling with trepidation, she stepped into the twisted realm beyond, a place where her reflection stood before her, uncanny and malevolent. In this distorted mirror world, Emma encountered doppelgangers of her loved ones, twisted reflections of the people she once held dear. Their faces contorted with malice as they plotted to claim her life and take her place in the real world. Shadows danced and whispered, whispering promises of eternal darkness and torment. Driven by a flicker of defiance, Emma fought back, desperately trying to escape the clutches of this maleficent reflection realm. She ventured deeper into the nightmarish maze, guided only by her determination to survive. Yet the twisted reflections were relentless in their pursuit, mocking her every step, their laughter echoing in her ears. Finally, in a decrepit chamber hidden within the mirror world, Emma discovered the source of their power, a cursed mirror, ensnaring the souls of those who dared enter. Realizing her only chance of escape was to shatter the mirror, she grasped a shard and swung it with all her might. The mirror exploded into a shower of sharp fragments, each one holding a piece of the twisted realm's essence. Blood splattered across the walls, as if the mirror itself bled in agony. But the victory was short-lived. The shattered remnants of the mirror rose from the floor, coalescing into a grotesque entity, a fusion of reflections and shattered glass. The creature lunged at Emma, shards of glass slicing through her flesh with sadistic precision. Her screams mixed with the creature's malicious laughter as it tore her apart, devouring her piece by piece. Her last moments were filled with excruciating pain and the realization that she had become nothing more than a cautionary tale, lost within the abyss of a world reflected. Ravenswood, forever tainted by the horrors that unfolded within its unsuspecting walls, would forever be haunted by the presence of those malevolent reflections, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks within even the most idyllic of places. Deep within the outskirts of a forgotten town stood an abandoned forest, veiled in a shroud of mystery. Its name, whispered in hushed tones, sent a chill down the spines of locals. A group of friends, led by their insatiable curiosity, decided to uncover the secrets that lay dormant within the ancient woods. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, they ventured into the heart of the forest. The towering trees loomed ominously overhead, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. As they pressed on, they stumbled upon ancient markings etched onto the bark of trees, symbols long forgotten by time. Excitement turned to unease as the group discovered a hidden graveyard, concealed beneath a blanket of overgrown foliage. Tombstones, weathered and cracked, stood as silent witnesses to the forest's dark past. The air grew thick with an otherworldly presence, and an eerie silence fell upon the group. One by one, each member of the group began experiencing disturbing hallucinations. Shadows danced and whispered, whispering terrible secrets that clawed at their sanity. The line between the supernatural and their own paranoia blurred, twisting their minds into a nightmarish kaleidoscope. Emma, usually the voice of reason, saw her own face contorting into a grotesque mask, laughing maniacally at her terror-stricken friends. Mark, a brave soul who prided himself on his resilience, felt unseen hands clawing at his flesh, leaving bloody gashes in their wake. Sarah, known for her unwavering faith, watched in horror as twisted figures rose from the graves, their eyes empty voids of malice. As desperation consumed them, the group realized they must uncover the forest's dark secret before they became permanent residents of its eerie depths. They delved deeper into the graveyard, their steps echoing through the silent night. And then it happened, an insane plot twist that shattered their fragile grasp on reality. The ancient graves began to open, revealing not decaying bodies, but mirrors reflecting distorted versions of themselves. Their doppelgangers emerged from the mirrors, each one mirroring their fear and torment with a sadistic delight. Laughter erupted, a chorus of wicked glee that reverberated through the forest. In a horrifying twist of fate, the group found themselves trapped within the mirrored graves. Their reflections, now freed from their mirrored prisons, took their place in the real world. The twisted doppelgangers gleefully embraced their newfound lives, leaving the original friends trapped within the realm of mirrors, destined to be mere reflections in a twisted reality. Desperation turned to madness as the trapped friends clawed at the mirrors, their nails tearing and breaking against the unyielding glass. Blood smeared the mirrors, a testament to their futile struggle. Their screams of agony and terror were swallowed by the forest, forever lost within its haunting depths. As night fell, the forest claimed its gruesome victory. The twisted doppelgangers, wearing the faces of their victims, returned to the town, bringing with them a legacy of darkness. The abandoned forest became a forbidden place, whispered in tales to warn the curious of the grim fate that awaited them. And the friends? They remained imprisoned within the mirrors, forever trapped in their own personal hells, their souls consumed by the malevolent force that lurked within the ancient woods. Their eyes, haunted and hollow, stared out from their mirrored prisons, serving as a chilling reminder of the horrors that awaited those who dared to venture too close. The Harrison family was bequeathed an antique mirror, its ornate frame exuding an aura of darkness. Unbeknownst to them, the mirror held a sinister secret, a haunting history that would soon consume their lives. Curiosity got the better of them as they gazed into the mirror. A ghostly figure materialized, its distorted visage contorting in agony. It attempted to communicate, whispering fragmented messages that chilled their bones. Intrigued, the family delved deeper, desperate to decipher the ghost's intentions. Night after night, they gathered around the mirror, studying its reflections, their minds unraveling in the process. Their obsession grew, the lines between reality and the mirror's realm blurring. Shadows danced along the walls, mocking their futile attempts at understanding the ghostly figure's distorted messages. But then, an insane plot twist shattered their fragile perception of the mirror's malevolent force. The ghostly figure was not a trapped soul seeking communication but an ancient entity of darkness, manipulating their curiosity for its own sinister purpose. The mirror served as a gateway, a conduit for the entity to cross over into the physical world. With each passing day, the family became entangled in the entity's web of malevolence. Their minds twisted, their bodies withered under its influence. The once loving family turned against each other, driven to madness by the insidious force that had taken hold of their souls. In a final, gruesome twist, the entity revealed its true intentions. It demanded the ultimate sacrifice, a life to bind its presence to the mortal plane. Desperation filled the air as family members turned on one another, their eyes filled with madness and a twisted hunger for survival. Blood was spilled, staining the mirror's frame as the family descended into a frenzy of violence. The entity reveled in the chaos, its laughter mingling with the screams of its victims. Limbs were severed, bones shattered, and the once harmonious home transformed into a scene of carnage. In the end, only one member of the Harrison family remained, a lone survivor, broken and scarred. As the entity claimed victory, the survivor's body was possessed, a vessel for the darkness to continue its malevolent reign. The mirror, now tainted with the blood of its victims, became a cursed relic, a portal for the ancient entity to lure new prey into its web. The Harrison family's name became synonymous with tragedy, their home a ghostly reminder of the gruesome fate that awaited those who dared to gaze into the mirror's abyss. And so, the mirror remained, a silent witness to the horrors it had orchestrated, reflecting the twisted faces of its victims and the depths of darkness that resided within its glass. Its hunger insatiable, its power unyielding, it patiently awaited its next unsuspecting victims to succumb to its gruesome fate. Victoria lived alone in a small house nestled on the outskirts of town. One evening, she noticed an unsettling presence within her home. Objects were mysteriously moved from their usual places, and eerie whispers echoed through the empty rooms. Convinced she had an intruder, Victoria took precautions, installing security cameras and alarms to catch the trespasser in the act. Days turned into weeks, and the disturbances persisted, growing more sinister with each passing night. Victoria reviewed hours of surveillance footage but found no sign of a human intruder. The cameras captured only glimpses of fleeting shadows, impossible to identify or confront. Fear began to consume her, her sanity hanging by a fragile thread. As the disturbances escalated, Victoria uncovered an insane plot twist. Her unseen intruder was not human but an otherworldly creature, existing just beyond the veil of reality. It inhabited a dimension just out of sight, manipulating the physical world to torment her. Its existence was beyond human comprehension, and its motives remained enigmatic. Driven to the brink of madness, Victoria sought answers in ancient texts and occult lore, desperate to find a way to protect herself from the otherworldly predator. She discovered a ritual, a gruesome and dangerous ceremony that promised to banish the creature back to its own realm. In a twisted turn of events, Victoria became a vessel for the ritual, willingly sacrificing a part of herself to confront the otherworldly entity. The ceremony unfolded, her blood mingling with forbidden incantations. The house trembled, walls cracking, as the portal to the creature's dimension began to open. But the ritual went awry, an insane plot twist that twisted the fabric of reality. The otherworldly entity, far more powerful than anticipated, seized control, its malevolent force flooding into the physical world. Shadows solidified, contorting into grotesque forms, as the house itself transformed into a nightmarish labyrinth of flesh and bone. Victoria, trapped within this living nightmare, witnessed the gruesome demise of her own sanity. The walls pulsated with sickening vitality, the air thick with the stench of decay. The otherworldly entity, now unleashed, relished in its newfound dominion, feeding off Victoria's terror and despair. In a final act of desperation, Victoria mustered the last shreds of her willpower, grasping a ceremonial blade. With a savage stroke, she plunged it into her own chest, hoping to sever the connection between herself and the entity. Blood spilled, soaking the unholy ground, as her life force drained away. As Victoria's life ebbed, the entity's grip weakened, the house convulsing in agony. With a final roar, the otherworldly creature was banished, retreating to its own realm, leaving behind a grisly aftermath. Victoria's lifeless body collapsed onto the twisted floor, her existence sacrificed in a bid for survival. The house, forever tainted by the horrors that had unfolded within its walls, stood as a chilling monument to the insatiable hunger of the otherworldly entity. In the end, the house stood vacant, its rooms echoing with the lingering whispers of the past. The dark secrets it held were buried within its walls, an eternal reminder of the price one must pay when meddling with forces beyond comprehension. And as night fell, the house awaited its next unsuspecting victim, its hunger stirring once more, ready to claim its next prey. In a world ravaged by a zombie apocalypse, a young man named Ethan and his father, Thomas, fought side by side to survive. They formed a bond forged in the crucible of adversity. As they traversed the desolate wasteland, they encountered James, an old friend of Thomas, who joined their group. Days turned into weeks, and the trio faced relentless hordes of the undead. However, something seemed amiss with James. He became increasingly manipulative, whispering insidious suggestions into Ethan's ear. Unbeknownst to Thomas, James harbored a sinister agenda. James, filled with envy and resentment, saw an opportunity to eliminate Thomas and take his place in Ethan's life. He exploited Ethan's vulnerability and instilled doubts about his father's ability to protect him. James convinced Ethan that his father's presence was a liability, endangering both of them in their struggle to survive. With twisted words, James planted seeds of betrayal in Ethan's mind. He urged Ethan to deceive his father, feeding him lies that a group of survivors on the outskirts of the city had discovered a sanctuary free from the undead. James claimed that only one person from their group would be allowed entry, and Ethan had to convince his father to sacrifice himself for their chance at safety. Reluctantly, Ethan succumbed to James' manipulation. He approached his father with a heavy heart, fabricating a story of hope and salvation. Thomas, driven by love for his son and a desire to ensure his well-being, willingly accepted his sacrificial role. Tears streaming down his face, he embraced Ethan one last time before venturing into the treacherous cityscape alone. Unbeknownst to Thomas, it was a trap orchestrated by James. As Thomas walked deeper into the city, lured by the false promise of safety, he encountered a horde of ravenous zombies. Overwhelmed by their relentless onslaught, Thomas fought valiantly but ultimately met a gruesome end, torn apart by the undead. Ethan, burdened by guilt and the weight of his actions, discovered the horrifying truth about James' treachery. Consumed by rage and grief, Ethan confronted James, the man who had manipulated him into killing his own father. A vicious battle ensued, each blow fueled by a mixture of vengeance and survival instinct. In a final, desperate act, Ethan managed to overpower James, leaving him battered and broken. As the world around them crumbled, Ethan stood over James, the embodiment of his shattered trust and the monstrous acts he had committed. But the victory was bittersweet. The loss of his father and the depths to which he had fallen haunted Ethan's every waking moment. He wandered alone, a broken soul trapped in the remnants of a shattered world, forever scarred by the consequences of his actions. And as the undead hordes continued to ravage the land, Ethan's existence became a haunting reminder of the irreversible damage caused by manipulation, betrayal, and the darkness that can consume even the closest of bonds.